Good day, everyone, and welcome to Engineered Nigeria TV show from the stables of the foremost engineering institution in Africa, the Nigerian Society of Engineers. In this episode, we'll be discussing with the chairman and group managing director of the Sahara Group, Mr. Kola Adesina, FNSC MFR. We'll be discussing energy sector reforms in Nigeria, opportunities and challenges. I am your host, Engineer Dr. Felicia Nena Agobata, Vice President Corporate Services of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Join us and enjoy the show.
Group Managing Director of Sahara Group, Kola Adesina, is a consummate entrepreneur with experience that traverses academia, insurance, finance, energy, trade, and diplomacy. The organization he leads is a leading international energy and infrastructure conglomerate with operations in over 42 countries across Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Adesina holds a BSc in insurance, a master's in business, and a master's in international law and diplomacy, and is an associate of the Chartered Institute of Insurance. He is an alumnus of the Harvard Business School Executive Education. He is also an alumnus of the Advanced Management Program from Walton School of University of Pennsylvania.
My story is not unusual. It's typical story of grass to grace. That's how I'll say it. And of course, born in Chumulu. And we had our own issues. So I was a conductor, I was a vendor, I was a fuel attendant at some point, just in order to be able to survive. And of course, we had series of evictions from one property to the other and all whatnot. However, one of the things that have been of great help to me, which I must reference, I'm not so sure whether it's engineering compliant, it's God Almighty. It's His grace. I'm a beneficiary of God's grace more than any other thing. But beyond that, from the standpoint of my own little contribution to self-development, education was something I considered a veritable vehicle I can use to attain the success and ambition I had, even when I was faced with serious poverty and all that. So I was intentional in that space. I actually was always willing to learn till this very moment. So I think one of the things that's helped me in that regard is knowledge acquisition, discipline, because I say to most people, discipline is a talent, endurance is a talent, perseverance is a talent, willingness to go beyond the ordinary is equally a talent, ability to survive in adversity is equally a talent. And all these talents you need to nurture them, you need to work on them. I don't believe manna will still fall from heaven anymore. I believe our destinies are in our hand and we should make it happen the way we desire. So went to Grace Nursery School, then things were fairly okay for the family, and after that things went south. And of course I had to go to Egbaudeda in Ogun State, and later I went to Premier College, later Jibo High School, then University of Lagos. I went to study insurance, my first degree, went back for my master's in business. I went back for MSc in MILD in international law and diplomacy as well. Then later, of course, I realized that if I'm going to be a global player, I need to go beyond Nigeria. So I went to first Harvard and then later to Wharton School as well. So in terms of knowledge acquisition, those are the things I've done, and I'm currently doing my PhD as well as we chat here. So that's been the story of my life. All right. The journey to power was more of the. I have one skill I always try to pass on. I'm naturally curious. I'm driven by curiosity more than any other thing. I'm more exploratory in nature. So I've tried my hands in many things in life. Now, I always believe that the only people that will make it in life are solution providers. If you're not providing any solution, offering any solution, you can't be successful, talk less of being great. So what I did was to look at the Nigerian space in terms of where the gaps are. And of course, you and I know that we have significant gaps in energy generally, and most especially in the power sector. So I knew that if we are able to play in that space, we should be doing very well. And equally, we should be doing good as well to the Nigerian brand. I'm ashamed the level of success we have in the energy space generally, and I'm equally far more ashamed with regards to the electricity space in the country. I feel something went missing in Nigeria. If you look behind you, and I beg all of you to look behind you now, just temporarily, you'll see a public meeting that was to be held on how Nigeria can help Britain. That should scare each and every one of us, that at a point in time in the history of Nigeria, we were so blessed that Great Britain was looking up to Nigeria for help. So the question has always been for me, where did we miss it? How did things go wrong? So just to answer your question directly, the gap I see in the electricity industry is one of the reasons for this investment. I believe that nobody's going to help Nigeria grow except Nigerians. I just read a report some few seconds ago where Diageo has sold its shares to Tolerant Group, and they're leaving Nigeria in Guinness. The white man of whatever coloration, whether it's from China, India, Great Britain, Europe, America, wherever, for them home is home. For them profit is the hallmark of everything. Everything pales if profit is not attained. But with the Nigerian blood, there's no other place better than Nigeria. I believe the biggest and the best nation on planet Earth is Nigeria. No matter where I go, I love to be in Nigeria. Sooner than I land, I'm always craving to return to Nigeria. So I'm a firm believer that it's only Nigerians that can make Nigeria better, no other person. All these adverts for investors, I don't think they mean so much to me. I feel the Nigerian blood is more superior to any other blood. So the reason for the investment is specifically that the need is there. The population is rising in a worrisome manner. Of course, every day we have new births in Nigeria. 24,329 people are born in Nigeria every day. So every hour in Nigeria, we have 1,019 children being born every hour. So of course, you know what that means in terms of pressure on infrastructure, pressure on healthcare, pressure on the road, pressure on even electricity. So it's pressure all around. So if Nigeria doesn't wake up early enough, it's either to contain the birth rate and the population, or to accelerate the infrastructure development, growth of the economy, to be able to accommodate the number of people we're churning out as a nation. So if we're going to really grow the Nigerian brand, I think we need to deal with issues around infrastructure gap. So the reason for the investment is simply put, to put Nigeria on the right path of economic development. Generally, I usually talk about the value system that needs to change. I think our value system and our mindset needs to change. It's the biggest problem. It's not what most people call a tariff and the rest of that. No, it's a mindset. If you have a mindset for greatness, you'll be great. If you have a mindset that you won't be great, you won't be great. It's just that simple. We've acquired a negative mindset around the blame game. We're looking for faults. We're looking for somebody we want to point at as a reason for our failure. Now, of course, it's not helping us in any way or form. So the first thing that ought to happen is really for us to have a mindset change that, look, electricity is critical. And because of its criticality, invariably in our scale of preference, by way of priority, it should be number one. So after overcoming your mindset that you're not looking for anybody to blame as a reason for where we are, you now need to prioritize. I don't think we've prioritized electricity in Nigeria. And for me, the last thing will be the action. We talk too much in Nigeria, we act less. So those are the big headlines that I see that needs to be dealt with. But from a sector-specific challenges, the very first one is lack of alignment. You can't deliver in a value chain that is not aligned. Today, there is absolute misalignment in the entire system. So that's why we're finding it difficult to deliver optimal value. It's difficult because A is not talking to B, the generation company and the gas company should be having regular conversation around where the gas wells are, the volume of the reserve, the number of years the reserve will last, and the kind of capacity that should be built on the basis of the reserve that we've seen. And the investment in that gas space must be aligned to the investment that is going to be made in the generation space. Of course, one of the simple things we all learned way back in school is that how do you site industry? Either it's near to the market or near to the source of raw material. Here. So all those factors are critical in determining where we site a power plant in Nigeria. Of course, and I'm not so sure if we've used any of these variables in terms of determining capacity, location. So that's another problem on its own. The other problem I see is the fact that until Nigeria starts to promote industrialization, Nigeria is not going to grow. Unfortunately, part of the model we have adopted is a model that is not going to see us enter the land of El Dorado. And what's that? You cannot use residential consumption as a basis of developing your electricity infrastructure. You can't. The general view globally, where you see countries doing very well, is that they've made their electricity project as a productive element of their economy. So they're not looking at just consuming the power for the sake of consumption. They're looking at it from the standpoint of the fact that electricity needs to be used to convert raw materials to finished products. Electricity needs to be able to unlock creativity, unlock innovation. If you have light, your mind will be awake. You'll be able to deal intelligently with the challenges of society. So the question is, who is doing any of these things? So if we don't industrialize, we can't electrify, unfortunately. A lot of people seem not to realize that. We've stayed stagnated now on 4,000 megawatts average for how many years? And it's primarily because of decisions similar to the one I mentioned just a few minutes ago. If industries are leaving Nigeria in droves, that's an alarm, red flag, a major red flag for any nation. I was expecting, and I'm saying it openly, that we definitely should hold a national conference on why industries are leaving Nigeria. That's a serious existential threat. Because residential consumption, let me give you by way of ratio analysis, and you can confirm it. Abroad, in most of the developed society, 80% of the consumer of electricity are the industrial users and commercial users, not residential. But in Nigeria, the exact opposite is the case. So if you don't attract good industries into the country, how do you grow the economy? You can't grow the economy. So we have generation capacity of 13,000 people say. I'm sure we have far more than that. and I'm coming back to that later. But you're distributing averagely 4,000. The delta is 8,000. Where do you see that? That's waste of a major type that should not have been encouraged in any way or form. So you can't have one aspect of the value chain run ahead of the other without coherence, without integration, without interrelationship, without interconnectedness. All these things need to come together. So when you're developing the gas wells, before you now start to do anything, is to say, where are the gas fields in Nigeria? Where are they? What kind of reserve exists in them? Now, between gas field and transmission, which one leads to a lesser technical losses than the other? Where do you have a major loss between the two? That should determine where the generating plant will be. Either the generating plant will be close to the market, where people will the load center, those who will use the power, or it will be close to where the major transmission infrastructure is, or it will be close to gas. So those are decisions that are intentional, and it's in the national policy framework of the country that you cannot have just disparate, everybody citing plants wherever. And of course, part of what we've done lately is because of the electricity hub, we said we are decentralizing. It's okay to decentralize. There's no problem about it. But there's an economic side to that decentralization. There's an environmental side to that decentralization. There are social sides to that decentralization. Who is asking the relevant question in those areas? Somebody must be saddled with the responsibility of tying this whole thing together. And it's similar to the misalignment I mentioned earlier, is that you have a legal framework that is not properly aligned with the economics of the business. You have a framework that is not aligned with regulation. You have a framework that is not aligned with the capacity and ability to pay. The recent change in the tariff structure around Band A, Band B, C, and D. If we are deep enough, smart enough, one of the things we would have come to see is the fact that if those who purportedly do have the capacity to pay are sweating and clamoring for a reversal, then that tells you that Nigeria is a poor country. Because those that are meant to be in the Band A locations are meant to be those who are affluent. You have the capacity to be. But if you read the newspaper on a daily basis, since Band A, whatever regime came, it's been one clamor for change or the other. As we sit here, the National Assembly is holding a session on the tariff. Now, I hope and I pray that common sense will prevail. Because if they reverse it, they're not going to see power. Forget it. It's not going to happen. Because today, the people subsidizing electricity in Nigeria, we're the ones. It's not government. Everybody thinks it's, we are the ones subsidizing. And I'll tell you why. How? I'm being owed over 1 trillion naira for power generated and consumed. Over how many years? Now, when exchange rate was 360, you're owing me money. You've not paid me till now, that is now 1,005. I'm the one subsidizing now. So it's the private sector that is subsidizing. So how do you want me to now put more money? So you can see that that's another problem. The other problem I see is the fact that I'm not so sure whether the demand study or load study we've done is credible. You don't start to build a structure of this size without a plan. You can't. And that plan must include several factors. The soil. Is it strong enough to carry this humongous asset? If there is any earthquake or tremor, will this building still stand? How many persons can this building contain? All those things are things you have to sound, the direction of the wind. All those things are factors you have to consider. So you don't just say, I have a dream, I want to build a 7-floor building. and this, and then they just goes to site and start to turn soil. No, you can't do that. So I'm not so sure we've done a load and demand study very well. I'm not so sure of the credibility of the data that we have in the sector. I'm not so sure. Those are areas and issues I feel needs to be dealt with. Decisions in the power sector or energy space must be data driven and must be credible data driven. It's not just data for the sake of data. It must be data that is valid, that is true, that is dependable, not just reliable, must be dependable before you can build anything on top of it. So there is significant misalignment. The last point for me is town planning. Our town planning failed and failed woefully. If you go to Ikeja Electric, Ogba was christened as an industrial area. Now visit Ogba now and tell me whether it's still industrial. Now, so the infrastructure that was built to service Ogba was an industrial facility. But the people consuming power in Ogba today are largely residential and few commercial. Industrial, we can get 20% of industrial in Ogba today. I'll give you money. So those are things that few people analyze properly. To be honest with you, this set of regulators, very high. I rate them very, very high. We've been here 10 years plus. They are the best I've seen. They have their weaknesses as is expected, but in terms of dealing with issues and challenges of the sector, they've done very, very well. I'm impressed with the quality of orders and regulatory actions they've taken. They've made some mistakes here and there, understandably so, but I rate them very high. Now, why are they not rated as excellent by me? It's because of the fact that even where the regulator knows the challenges, the issues, they don't have the political will, they don't have the capacity to take the political decision. Neither do they have cash. So you have a situation where they can regulate, but their regulation is not backed by cash where necessary. Cash belongs to another arm of government. Policy belongs to another arm of government. So that's why if you listen to I've stated some things in a very carefully crafted ways earlier. Coherence. That's where the incoherence comes from. Today they are now at the National Assembly. The regulation and the legislature should align easily. We should really be having regulatory order saying let the tariff go up based on reality, and then legislation saying no, tariff can't go up. And the question I ask some of the people that have spoken to me is, okay, fine, it's not going to go up. So where's the money coming from? That everybody's aware that we have cost overrun in Nigeria today. We all know. So it's not that anybody is deceiving himself. So how can we say it's not affecting the power sector? No. I'm a generator of power. Majority of my facility is dollar denominated. I don't have any parts I can buy in Nigeria. So, and the thing has gone to 1.5. What used to be 157, 165, 198, 360 is now 1.5. And you still expect me to charge the same rate? And you say you want service and you be complaining that there's no light? And when you hear of subsidy, part of what I always say, again, so that we are all putting it in full context, is that in developed society, they subsidize production. Yeah. Because when you subsidize production, the ripple effect is beneficial to the economy than when you're subsidizing consumption. Yeah. Because you know why? Because you want to triple your production. You want to become export oriented. Today we're doing something that maybe we all don't know the consequence. The more you load up the industries with higher tariff, the higher will be the prices of their commodities. It's passed through now, so they're not going to bear the burden of any cost overrun. They will pass it into the tariff, to their price of commodity, which is why you have inflation. This minimum wage conversation is directly going to inflation. Don't worry, let them do it. Once they do it, the market will go crazy as well. So the people that you ultimately want to make happy, they're going to be unhappy because they'll see the cost overrun. So those are issues that are foundational and fundamental. Until you deal with them, we're not going far. Significance that are considered negative and significance that are positive. So I'll dimension them along those lines. Why are we in this mess? A lot of people seem not to know, because history at a point in time in Nigeria was taken out of the syllabus. You see, when we took over, when we were to buy this asset, we're not stupid. I brought Korea, the Electric Power Corporation. As at the time I went to Korea in 2006 to persuade them to partner with us, they were generating 46,000. By the time we bought the asset a year later, they were doing 62,000. Today in Korea, they're doing over 200,000 megawatts of capacity. So it's not as if we went to bring people that are not capable, because I've heard comments like that they're not competent. How can we bring money into a sector and go and hire people that can't do it? No, we brought competence to the table. So competence came into Nigeria. So what now happened? Day one, we took over the asset. And by the way, before we took over Egbin particularly, we paid $28 million for Egbin in 2007, May 27 to be precise. We didn't take over till November 1st, 2013. So money that should have been productively utilized was tied down in Nigeria for 6 years. So what did we see? Hydros were now selling power to those who were cross-subsidizing for the common man on the street who doesn't have capacity to pay. And the more of that they do, the higher the tariff will be to the common man. Because if the industries are paying on behalf of the common man a specific amount of money over and above what they should pay, and now those companies are now buying power directly from the cheapest power, then there's a problem now. So how can you come up with such significance? I'm just giving you significant policy decisions. So how can you justify that? And then in the generation space, government will say, we signed a good contract with Azura. For me, I say it to everybody. Azura's contract is a perfect contract. It's a global contract. That's the way contracts are signed everywhere in the world. So there's nothing bad. But look, is the field level? No. I generate a higher capacity. I'm the biggest generator of power in Nigeria. Single generator in this country. Now, the benefit Azura Power has, I don't have. So they pay Azura first before they pay me. And my capacity is bigger. They don't just pay them first, they have guaranteed payment. At different times, how much do we get? 7%, 8%, 9% of our invoice. So how do I survive? Significance.
What can I say? I would say, with all you said, what do you think will be the key drivers of success for Nigeria's energy sector in the coming decade?
Industrial focus. Industry, that's all. Once we start with the big takers of power, we will understand what it means. Probably that will drive us. Now, when we cite the capacity deployed in South Africa, in Egypt, and the rest of it, go and check. It's the industries that consume their power. It's not the common man on the street. South Africa is mining. because they're using electricity to mine. That's it. That's the reason for that big 44,000, 45,000 you hear all the time. So if you attract the right industry in the country, if you make yourself an industrial hub for the rest of Africa, then you're going to see a major difference. If I'm going to market Nigeria, I'll be marketing Nigeria from the standpoint of the size of the market. If we're truly 200 million or 220, whichever number anybody is banding, but we're in several millions, whatever. Now, so that population is a significant population. So if I can use that to attract industry into Nigeria, then I would have done very well for Nigeria. Is how do we bring industries into Nigeria? Now, when we're bringing those industries, where are we taking them to? In the dispatch schedule, what's the appropriate thing to do? I would say, please, Egbin, Ikeda Disco, ensure during the day all the factories get full power. Don't take their light during the day, please. At night, take power homes. You understand? So that's what I would do. And over time, what will happen? More industries will come because they have assured electricity supply. They know it's stable, it's reliable, it's dependable. We would have invested heavily in ensuring that power to that class of customer is guaranteed. And the more they are, the cheaper tariff becomes to the common man. Because employment will be created by them, they will pay tax, the economy of Nigeria will grow. The problem we're having today is our reserve is weak because we're not earning dollars. When vessels come into Nigeria with consumables, they go back empty. So until when Nigeria starts to produce something for the rest of the world, then are we going to see El Dorado? We cannot continue this model, current consumption-based model, to develop the Nigerian economy. No, it has to be a production-based model for electrification and associated infrastructural support before you can become an industrial giant. You can't become economic giant without electricity. You can't. So what I would have done is to make electricity number one and the only one. Also, I'll just say number one for me is electricity. Number two, electricity. Three, electricity. Then I'll let the states go and handle the rest. Every other thing, state government go and handle. But me, is electricity. I just want to support the electricity industry to be able to deploy more power, more guarantees of power. That's what I'm going to do. The vision is huge. It's for us to remain the most relevant, most dependable organization in energy space. We want to bring energy to life responsibly. We want to ensure that we're a provider of choice wherever energy is consumed. And we're starting with Nigeria. We're doing a lot in Africa, and we're doing a lot more outside Africa. So that's the vision, just in summary, because without electricity, mankind can't go far. Humanity is not going to be able to go far. And until we electrify all the homes and businesses in Africa, we're not going to rest on our horse. We're going to continue. We're going to be very aggressive, despite the challenges we see, and we see a lot of challenges, but we're going to overcome them. Whenever anybody presses switches in their home, we're the ones providing that power. That's the dream. Okay, I'll go back to my earlier remark, and I repeat it one more time. Discipline is a talent. Tenacity is a talent. Perseverance is talent. Patience is talent. Willingness to go over and above current challenges, a talent. So you must hone and oil those talents. Rome wasn't built in a day. If you want to have a machoistic body, you need to exercise. So you're going to be confronting challenges. Food will be appealing to you. You have to say no to it. There's no glutton I know that has a perfect body. I've not seen one. So you need to be able to have self-control You must ensure that what drives you is more of your vision and your dream than what is going on around you. What is going on around you can be so challenging, but yet you can create your own oasis of greatness and make it work for you. In spite of everything everybody is saying, trust me, the best place to invest, the best place to work, the best place to be creative and innovative is Nigeria, because we have deficits in many areas of our lives. Too many deficits. If you need to know, there's nothing that should make anybody poor in this country. With all that is, I can see, when most people look at Nigeria, they see adversity, they see lack, they see challenges. I don't see any of those things, I'm sorry. Each time what I see, opportunities. I just see opportunities all the time. And just like I told one of my presidential friends, president of one of the countries in Africa, that when a situation is seen by a weak person, they call it a problem. When a situation is seen by an average-minded person, they call it a challenge. When a situation is seen as an opportunity, what is called adversity is seen as an opportunity, that's a great mind. The more our younger generation adopt the mindset of seeing opportunities in spite of all the things going on around, they will definitely succeed. Electricity, the space is there, 42% electrified as far as I'm concerned. So we have 58% begging for attention. Whoever can feel that 58% is going to be adding value not only to society but ultimately to himself as well. So there are ample areas of opportunities in the power sector. Some of us are advocates of artificial intelligence as a basis of predicting and deciding on where to go. Problem solving is going to be made easier with technology. So how do we bring technology to bear in this space? Metering is a challenge. How do we now convert our phones to meters? What will make us convert phones to meters so that we don't have to buy meters any longer? Such creativity is required. How do we turn off our light without physically being there? When somebody is not home, you can switch off your light from London, and it's happening already anyway. So those are things that I would want to encourage the youth to look at more than any other thing. Is what are you spending your time on is what will tell me whether you're going to make it in life or not. If you're spending your time on social media, you'll be socially relevant, but your pocket will be poor.